All right, so today I want to look at test-driven development with AI, open code in particular. I have a package here that I created. It's called AutoPair.js. What it does is it kind of adds the functionality that you'd be used to from Sublime Text or any other popular text editor, where you type parentheses and you type an opening parenthesis and it automatically closes it. You select some text and it wraps it in parentheses, that kind of thing. Open, closing quotes, you know. And it does this in JavaScript. It adds this to text areas, inputs, text inputs. And the issue tracker is here on Veritula. And it currently has 2 issues. And I want to illustrate the importance of using test-driven development when you work with AI. The reason test-driven development with AI, TDD for short, is so important is that developing with AI is error prone and it's brittle. And what happens a lot is that you tell it to make one change and it makes other changes that break certain features. And sometimes you don't even notice it. The other day, I made a change to a code base and it got rid of a button attribute that was type button. And as a result, the button started submitting forms that it was not meant to submit. And presumably the AI quote unquote thought that it was fine to get rid of the attribute because there are cases where the attribute doesn't make a difference. But in this case, it made a big difference. So how do you make sure that when an AI makes a change, it doesn't break any existing features? The answer is you need to have good test coverage. So what I have here is the source of the AutoPair library. And you can see here, this is all it is, not even 100 lines of code, excuse me, to get the functionality that we want. And these are a bunch of test cases. So for example, when you select some text, this is basically an end-to-end test that you can run headless. If I just run npm test, it'll run these tests. And you can see that they all pass. Currently, we have 10 tests. So for example, when you wrap some text, when you select some text and then hit an opening parenthesis, for example, you have hello, you select the text, you hit the opening parenthesis on your keyboard, then as a result, you get this, which is basically what you get in a text area, in a text editor like Sublime. This is the feature that we're looking for, except now you get that in the browser. And I noticed a bug that is being tracked here on Veritula, is this one. So let me reproduce it. This is port 8080. So just to show you again, this is the standard, functionality that you would expect. I noticed that if we do this, so it works also for quotes, for example. I noticed that if we do this at the end of a string, at the end of a word character, behind a word character, it really shouldn't be doing it there. And you can see the desired behavior, for example, here in Sublime Text, when we hit the quote character after a word character, it doesn't do it. It does do it after a period and then a word character. Then it works. So those are the kinds of the different scenarios that we keep in mind here. So what we could do is we could ask OpenCode, hey, make this change. But if we did that, again, we would run the risk of getting brittle results and removing features that it wasn't supposed to remove. The first thing I like to do when I work with AI is I ask it, take a look at this code base. What does it do? And you just get it to explain to you what this code base does. I use Grok, the Grok code fast model for this. Actually not terribly fast. So now it says AutoPair is a library that enhances HTML input with automatic. Closes parentheses, brackets, curly brace, single quotes, blah, blah, blah. Select text, atomically removes pairs. Yep. So it understands the feature set. quote unquote understands. Okay, so this way you can kind of ensure that it doesn't just make changes blindly, or it gets a more robust understanding of what the library actually does. Now we can say there's a bug behind a word character not. Take a look at the code, and we'll see. So now we could decide. We could decide have it actually fix the bug right away. Actually, what I want to do, take a look at the suite and add a test case that ensures that typing hello and then single straight quote does not repair the quote. I find AI output pretty verbose. I think ChatGPT is. Okay. Looks like it's trying to doing a little more than I asked it to. Hesitate to interrupt it. It's already fixing the test. Okay. Now, the important thing when you work with AI is you absolutely have to master Git, because when it does more than you asked it to, you have to be able to selectively check out the parts that you don't want, for example. So what I want to do for now is I'm going to keep that, and I'm going to reject this part because I want to see the failing test for myself. I do not trust the AI. I basically treat the AI like a junior programmer who can type really, really fast and has written a lot of books on programming, but who hasn't really programmed all that much himself yet. Okay, so we see there's one failing test. So this is the whole notion between test-driven development. You write the test first, you make sure it fails, because who knows, maybe your feature is already implemented, or unexpectedly your code had more functionality than you thought it did, and then you don't even need to implement anymore. In this case, as expected, we get a failure. And so you can see here, we expected just a single quote, straight quote character, but it actually got two. So now we could tell it to fix the test. I think that would be fine. But I actually want to add another test case, because as you can see here in Sublime Text, when there's a non-word character preceding it, and we hit the quote character, we do get the auto closing. So I do want that. And so I think it would be wise to add another test case. Let's see, what test case did it add here? Supports undo and redo after typing a pair. Is that? Oh, wait. This is not new, I think. And something that's really bugging me is what this model does sometimes is it messes up the formatting. Look what it did. It increased it. Oh my God. It indented it by one space. So that means I can't even hit. Oh my God. And I can't do this either, because then. Okay. This is what I mean when I say this is a junior programmer. Okay. I guess this was not here before, nor was that. Okay. My problem here. Okay. So we visit the page, we type in the text area, we type hello, and then we type a single quote. It should just be this. Now I want to add, we can just do this manually real quick. It does auto pair quotes behind a non-word character. Okay. So if we say hello, period, and then we type this, then we do get. Also, we really don't need AI can also be kind of verbose with commenting, but you can just tell it, I think it would be fine not to have these comments. This testing library is so idiomatic that it's kind of self-documenting. You don't need any code, any comments here, I don't think. Okay, so we type hello, and then we type a quote, and then we do get the pair. Right? So let's run test again. We should be seeing 2 failures now. Yep, 2 failures. And you do want to make sure that they fail in the way that you expected them to. First one is we get the pairing when we didn't want it. And here, there's a selection. It shouldn't be a selection at all. Well, so this is basically testing for the cursor position. The cursor position here should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. Selection start and end should be 7 because we haven't selected a range. It's just the cursor in a single position. Okay. So I was actually wrong. We only expect 1 failure because this one already works. I kind of want to add another one that's more explicit about what else a non-aware character could be. So you kind of have to think about how comprehensive you want your test suite to be. You can't always test every single test or every potential case. That's not going to be doable or tractable. So for example, we couldn't test it. I mean, we could technically, but I don't think it's really wise or practical to run another test for a semicolon and another for an exclamation point and so forth, or colon or whatever. But because those are all kind of similar to this one. So I think it's fine to just test for this one in this case. But there is one case where, what happens after a line break, say, because after a new line, it should auto pair. Right? So in this case, we do want to see a double one. And the cursor position should be 1. So let's see what happens. Does auto pair quotes behind a new line? That would be fine. So let's see. It should already do that. So we still should only see 1 failure, but we get 2 failures. That's the one that we wanted. Right. Sure the text area value is actually correct. Oh, still 2 failures. Let's see here. Right, now it needs to be 2. Like that. It's a very iterative approach. So not only does test-driven development, historically, test-driven development kind of held the developer's hands as he developed the program. Now what you can do is you can also use it to, for handholding with the AI. Okay, let's tell it. I added a couple more test cases. Take a look. Don't any more code yet. Are you kidding? Why is it? Okay, I guess it just added to write more code, even though I told it not to do that. I mean, this is like, you see how brittle and error-prone AI really is, right? You explicitly tell it, do not write any more code, and then what does it do? It goes and does it. So again, be sure you master Git so that you can keep only what you want to keep. But I mean, this change does look correct, but let's run the test. Works. And for good measure, let's also run here, here. You do not see it here yet. Do not know what's going on. It's getting any error. Different. That's the test. That's the we tested it for, right? With hello. It was cached. Okay. So now you can see it's working. And this is kind of how you can do a lot of hand holding for the AI. And you got to be really careful because, again, it'll ignore your instructions and just write code when it's not supposed to. But yes, in this case, we made sure that all of the existing functionality still works. And we know this for a fact because we have good test coverage. This is how you can use AI and have it make changes to your code base confidently. Mastering Git, selecting only things that you want to keep, and having good test coverage and using test-driven development when you work with AI.